Thank you all for being here, and welcome to the 2026 State of the School presentation for the Roeper School. My name is Kevin Carlson, and it is my privilege and honor to serve this community as chair of the Board of Trustees. I want to start by expressing some gratitude and thanks to some people who definitely deserve it. First and foremost, Jenny Irvine, who's handling the door back there. Thank you, Jenny. Jenny is responsible for the setup and the food and just did a terrific job transforming this multi-purpose room tonight to host our meeting. So thank you, Jenny. And also thank you for answering all of the emails and phone calls and inquiries and scheduling and calendaring and all the stuff that you do. It's much appreciated. Thank you. And Jake Turner is in the back. He's doing the audio, visual, and video, and hopefully hearing me project appropriately for the room and sound setup. So thank you, Jake. I also want to thank former board chairs Alana Glass, Clay Thomas, Ashley Lowe, and Lori Lutz, who've been so generous with me over the years and over the past year, helping me get up to speed in what it means to be a chair of the board of the Roeper chair of the board of the Roeper School. So thank you, Alana, Clay, Ashley, and Lori. I want to thank Tom Roeper, Peter Roeper, and Karen Roeper, who have listened to me, asked questions of me, and shared personal stories about the history of the Roeper School from the time it was founded by their parents and as they lived as a family up in the Hill House over the years, and also their perspective on where the school has been, where it is now, and where it's going. So thank you, Tom, Peter, and Karen. A special thank you to Marcia Ruff and Linda Pence, and their cohort of Encore faculty for being so generous with their time and knowledge of the mission, history, and philosophy of the school, not only to me individually, but also to Anne over last summer, literally opening their house to us and making time, and also making time for the board this year as they gave presentations at our board orientation about the mission, history, and philosophy of this unique and special place. I owe a huge thank you to the volunteer members of our board of trustees, several of whom are here tonight. For these people bring, such care and talent and wisdom to their roles and informed perspectives to their work on the board. And so thank you to my fellow trustees. Most days of the week I'm at Roeper, both campuses for one reason or another, and I get to see and hear what's happening at the school and to see the children who thrive in this community, the parents, family members, and special people who support their children by bringing them to Roeper, and members of the faculty and staff who keep the school and mission going every single day. I'm very grateful that my family and I get to share this special place with you, so thank you to all of you. The role of the board. The Board of Trustees holds in trust, as the name indicates, it's kind of a giveaway, the preservation and implementation of the school's mission, philosophy, and core values, which are passed on from its founders, George and Anne-Marie Roeper. Trustees are legally responsible to honor their fiduciary responsibilities to the Roeper School as an institution, which means trustees are duty-bound to put the needs of the institution over the needs of any individual community member or group of community members, including themselves. And with the mission, philosophy, and core values of the schools as its guide, the board is also mindful of its obligation to stay in its lane and to not micromanage or dictate the day-to-day actions of the head of school, staff, and faculty. And our respect for boundaries is part of functional governance, but it's also consistent with governance best practices, and it's rooted in the philosophy and practice of respecting and honoring the expertise and responsibilities of others in our community, including teachers, staff, and the head of school. And if you look back on the wonderful website, roperschoolhistory.org, you'll see in the writings of George Roeper in particular, a profound commitment to honoring and respecting the skills and expertise of others. And it's this collaborative spirit in which the board is respectful of how well our faculty knows how to do their job and how well our school leaders know how to do theirs. It's a sign of healthy governance, and I'm very grateful for that tradition, and I'm very glad that we steward that tradition today. The Roeper Board of Trustees is currently composed of 17 trustees. Under the bylaws, we can have as many as 30. I don't know if we've ever been up to that many in my 6 years on the board. Plus the head of school who serves on the board as an ex officio member. The Roeper Board of Trustees, according to our bylaws, includes students, faculty members, alumni, alumni parents, and current parents. And these trustees come from all walks of life and a diverse range of professional backgrounds, including business, education, nonprofit management, the arts, finance, real estate, medicine, and law. The Board of Trustees meets every 2 months. Our next meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 23rd, 2026 at 6 p.m. We meet in this room, the special purpose room of the CCB, and all community members are welcome and encouraged to attend. I see some folks here tonight who from time to time have attended our board meetings to observe, and I sincerely thank you for coming to the board meetings. Your presence is welcome, it's appreciated. Your attention to our work and your care to take time out of a Monday night and be here to listen to what the board is doing is important and it's valuable to our community, so thank you. The board is comprised of 4 standing committees, a development committee, a governance committee, a diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice committee, the finance, investment, and risk committee, and an executive committee composed of the board officers plus the head of school, which meets monthly. All the committees meet monthly. So the board meetings themselves, in the meetings of the whole, so to speak, every other month, meetings of the committees monthly. Some board milestones in the past year. At the end of the last school year, we were able to share time with students, parents, and faculty and staff in listening sessions facilitated by Dr. J. Marks. Based on those conversations, we were able to form a clear picture of what the community needs from the school and what it needs from us as a board, and where we can be more transparent, connected, and supportive in our role as trustees. We heard requests for more communication, more accessibility, and transparency. In response to those requests, we've shared periodic board updates. They don't come daily, they don't come weekly. We try to announce those board updates at a sustainable pace and as needed to communicate to the community what's happening at the board level of the school. We reserve time at the beginning of each board meeting for community input. So if you want to notify us in advance of something that you might want to say or share at the beginning of a board meeting, you're welcome. If you want to just show up and use that time as a community member to share something that you believe needs the board's attention, you're welcome to come in and share that as well. We've been working with Ann Glass and her team to make sure that when we do communicate to the wider community from the board level, those communications reach all corners of the community and not just current faculty, staff, and families. We want to know that our alumni is hearing what we're doing. We want to know that our encore faculty is hearing what we're doing. The Roeper community and legacy spreads out all across the world, and we want those folks to know what's happening at the school that is important to all of us. We continue the practice of broadening and deepening the board's understanding of the school's mission, philosophy, and history. So as I indicated, we heard from Marcia and Emery at board orientation, and we'll be hearing from them again sometime later in the school year. The board also organized and discussed comprehensive notes from those listening sessions themselves. And we took what we saw and heard in the listening sessions in our work as trustees and in our advice and counsel to the head of school. In closing this section, I know she's not here tonight, but I have to say a special thank you to Dr. Cheryl Blau, a Roeper alum and current Roeper teacher, for her service to the community as a Roeper alumni, trustee, and now as a lower school faculty member. Cheryl really led the work on those listening sessions, and so thank you to Cheryl. One of the most important things that the board does is engage directly with the head of school and the head of school's leadership team. And the purpose of this is to maintain alignment between the mission and philosophy and values of the school and its strategic direction. The executive committee of the board meets directly with the head of school in person every month. As board chair, I meet with the head of school in person on a weekly basis. The full board receives a report from the head of school at each full board meeting. And in between all these formal sessions, there are phone calls, emails, text messages as needed to maintain an ongoing dialogue about the governance and leadership of the school. At a school where this is functioning well, where this process is working, the board provides valuable advice and counsel to the head of school, and the head of school provides valuable advice and counsel back to the board. And I'm very happy to report that the governance and leadership process at the Roeper School is functioning very well. And in part that it's because the Board of Trustees is mission focused, conscious of its role, caring, respectful of boundaries, and appreciative of the mission and philosophy and core values of Roeper. But the school is also functioning very well primarily because of our head of school, Ann Glass, and her leadership team. Ann has demonstrated an exceptional degree of professionalism and care in leading our school since joining the Roeper community. Leif, I also heard that you asked Ann to give your senior speech. I want to congratulate Ann. It's an honor to be asked to give a Roeper senior speech. So thank you for asking her. Well deserved. The pressure is now on Ann to give a senior speech. So congratulations.
I was going to mention that myself too.
Sorry, I stole it from you. Yeah. Ann is present in the school community, and she's accessible. She's receptive in hearing feedback, insight, and advice and counsel from the board, and she provides open, wise insight and advice and counsel to the board. She's demonstrated that she's patient and deliberate in her decision-making, and also in her assessments of the school, including her analysis of how it is structured, funded, and resourced. She proudly shares and celebrates the accomplishments of others on her team, including faculty, staff, directors, and students. She encourages professional development, growth, and branching out. And lastly, and most importantly, she does all this through the lens of the Roeper mission, philosophy, and values. And she's seen, I've personally observed the time that she has committed to learning and absorbing the history, mission, and philosophy of the Roeper School from a multitude of Roeperian resources, including encore faculty, alumni parents and families, alumni and former board member David Jaffe has made time for us, and I thank all of them for making time to work with me and the head of school. I stole this next one from some professional literature, and I'm paraphrasing from it, but it's important for me to say it. A new head of school faces a set of impossible expectations. She's asked to either make no changes or improvements, leaving things exactly as they are, or alternatively, she's asked to right all wrongs and to do so seamlessly, quickly, and without making anyone uncomfortable. And there can be some magical thinking on the part of a board chair, on the part of trustees, faculty, parents, students, and alumni as to what a new head of school can accomplish, as well as how quickly she can accomplish it. And those expectations are not always reasonable. But I'm pleased to report to this community that Ann gets it. She's demonstrated the ability to strike the all-important balance between being patient and being decisive. And we look forward to the ways in which Ann and her team, working with the board, can help sustain the Roeper School and its mission and philosophy for future generations. I recognize, and I believe this Board of Trustees recognizes, that as a small independent school with its own unique mission, identity, and values, Roeper must sustain its unique identity and what sets it apart from other places. Roeper is not like other schools, and that's a good thing. Roeper is a school for gifted children. It educates and cares for those students in a way that is attentive to their intellectual gifts, and they're also their individual emotional needs as a whole individual, as a whole person. And it does that with a global aspiration. It also asks and invites these students to be educated not only as gifted learners, but to be active and compassionate citizens of a bigger world. The Board of Trustees accepts the challenge of holding on to that mission while also sustaining the school for the future in some very important ways, legal, financial, and otherwise. And this is what we mean when we say the trustees are the guardians of the school's mission and philosophy. We have to keep the lights on, but we also have to make sure that the mission and philosophy are sustaining as well. And if we serve one but not the other, we're not doing our job. Finance and budget. The Roeper School is in good financial condition. Owing to many years of responsible stewardship, the school carries no debt obligations whatsoever. The school maintains and draws its income from diverse revenue sources, including tuition, income from camps and auxiliary programs, aftercare and after-school enrichment programs, interest, endowment income, and most importantly, gifts and grants. This diversity of revenue sources ensures that we can continue to provide exceptional programming, financial aid, and faculty support, while also investing in the long-term growth of our school. Special thanks are due to members of the Roeper Board of Trustees Finance, Investment, and Risk Committee, Amy Beth Fleischer, Rick Westenberg, Dave Fluent. Without you and your expert guidance, Roeper would not be the place that it is, and we wouldn't be able to invest what we're able to invest in this very special educational program. A high-level summary of income and expenditures for the upcoming 2026-2027 budget. On the income side, tuition and enrollment are the key drivers of our financial performance, as always. Tuition remains our largest funding stream, contributing and covering 81.6% of the school's expenses. Camps, thank you to Paula Romano and Nicole Weibel. Yeah, you can cheer for Paula, please. Yeah, let's hear it. Roeper camps contribute $1.7 million, which covers 9.3% of our expenses, demonstrating the importance of our summer offerings and strengthening the school's financial sustainability, and also supporting the school's outstanding representation and reputation outside of Roeper itself. You'll hear from Ann later that we have 800 kids signed up for this upcoming summer's programs, and only 200 of those 800 kids are Roeper students. No? Correct me. 54 of the
4 to 60 right now. Yeah.
out of the 800?
Yeah.
Amazing. So that's 750 kids who don't otherwise come to Roeper School, who know how special this community is and how well it represents itself and puts on the summer camp. So thank you, Paula. Other revenue sources such as interest income, aftercare, and after-school enrichment programs contribute $528,000 roughly, which covers 2.8% of expenses. Most importantly, gifts and grants bring in $465,000, excluding all capital endowment gifts, which covers 2.5% of expenses, and demonstrating the generosity of our donor community. Endowment income, which the Board of Trustees uses very sustainably and very responsibly, helps fund ongoing operational needs and future investments, and covers 2.2% of our expenses. With all of these sources, we're still short of covering the full cost of providing the Roeper program. We're spending in a deficit, and the board has therefore approved the use of designated funds in the amount of $300,000, which is 1.6% of the budget for 2026 and 2027. On the expense side, providing a world-class educational program tailored to gifted students while holding true to our values, mission, and philosophies is not an inexpensive proposition. Show of hands, has anyone in here read the Pink Book, the Roeper School Pink Book, edited by Ambrose? Okay. If you haven't, if you want to approach a Roeper person and say, hey, can I borrow a copy of the Pink Book? It's an invaluable resource, and it has a chapter on governance and leadership by former Board of Trustees Chair Doug Winkworth. And when I say running the program is not an inexpensive proposition, I sound like a politician. Doug says it's not cheap. And it's not. And the board takes very seriously the balance that has to be achieved between financial sustainability and investing what is needed to run Roeper the way that it should be run. Over time, our expenses have generally been fixed, but they're steadily increasing due to macroeconomic factors that affect everyone. It affects independent schools, especially schools of this size in particular. This includes inflation, healthcare costs, and economic factors far outside of Roeper's individual control. In the 2027 budget, faculty and staff benefits make up 58.9% of the school's expenditures. The board recognizes that our teachers are the heart of Roeper. They put the mission and philosophy into practice, and we understand strategically as trustees and guardians of the mission and philosophy that we must invest in those faculty members and our teachers to sustain the school. Financial aid, scholarships, and tuition discounts represent 16% of the school's expenditures. This year, we honor Mary Ann Hogue with the annual scholarship dinners, which will be held on April 25th. The Roepers, George and Anne-Marie, were champions of the school's financial aid program, as was Mary Ann Hogue. As Marcia Ruff has written, Mary Ann, though nominally retired, ran the school's financial aid program from her bed till the very end. The Board of Trustees guards this core value and tenet of the Roeper mission by continuing to invest in the school's financial aid program as part of the annual budget. Instructional support represents 5.1% of the school's expenditures for the 2026-2027 budget. This is a strategic priority, and the board will continue to work with the head of school and her leadership team to invest in the support and resources our gifted students and their excellent teachers need to get the most out of a Roeper education. Finally, I think one of the most important strategic things that this board has done in the last year as we face some of these bigger challenges, demographics, economics, cultural pressures that all independent nonprofit corporations face in 2026, we recognize that these challenges will not be solved overnight. They will not be solved in a single year, and we must strive for positive action, steady progress, and balance. And to that end, one of the most important decisions we've made as a board this year has to vote unanimously to extend Ann's contract as head of school through June 30, 2027. We recognize that continuity, stability of leadership are fundamental and essential to running this school the way that it deserves to be run and needs to be run. It takes time, care, and patience to build relationships and to learn and understand what it means to educate gifted children in 2026 and beyond, and to understand what the school needs to do so that it will still be educating gifted children consistent with the Roeper mission and tradition in 2036 and beyond. So when our children's children are enrolling as students. And the board has wisely, I believe, decided to lean into that ongoing work and to support the continuity and consistency of leadership that is needed to keep the mission going. And we're proud to be working with Ann and her leadership team as we continue on that journey. Thank you for being with us, and I'm proud to turn it over to Ann.
Hi, everyone. Give me a second just to turn this back on. I know that was a lot of information. I'm going to reiterate some of it, but I promise I have pictures, so should sink in a little better, I think. I'm also looking around this room, and it takes me back to my classroom teaching days when no one would ever want to sit in the front row. I want to thank you for taking time out of your week to come and listen to this tonight. I really appreciate it. It shows how much you are dedicated to this community and to hearing about how we stand today and where we're headed for the future. I want to start by saying that if you had told me a year ago that I would have moved from New York to Michigan to work at the Roeper School, I would have thought you were nuts. But I made a big move over last summer because I knew about the Roeper School. I knew that it was the oldest school in the country that educates gifted learners. And I had an amazing experience when I came here as a finalist candidate for this position. Just because of the conversations I had, and it made me feel like this is a very special place. I will reiterate what Kevin said earlier, that one of the first people I met when I came as a candidate was Leaf. And I remember after a Q&A, he came up because he wanted to keep talking. And he approached me with such earnest and seriousness and care about this school that I thought was beyond any other high schooler that I had known, like in any of my teaching positions previously. He had thoughts. He had thoughts about how, he thought, the administration and the student body should relate to one another and be responsive. And I said, Leaf, if I get this job, I promise you, I will reach out and you and I will meet before classes start. And I did make that move, and we did meet before classes started. And, that was one of my first welcomes to the school, and I thank you for that. There were many other people who helped me feel welcome here at Roeper. I'm looking at Ed right now. One of the first experiences I had was going to the golf outing, which was super fun. I am a terrible golfer, but I had a great time. I actually did make some money on the Super Bowl on Sunday night, and Ed Venmo'd me my winnings with the with the memo that said for golf lessons. So a not so subtle indicator that maybe for next August I should be better prepared. But anyway, that is just to say, where I want to start tonight is with a giant thank you to not just the people that I've mentioned, but so many others that gave me a warm welcome, including Emery and Linda Pence, including Kevin, Lori Lutz, David Jaffe, other members of this community, present and former, who stay so invested here. I spent a while on several occasions speaking with Marcia Ruff, who gave me a long history and narrative about Roeper's philosophy, as well as a ton of reading that will last me a lifetime. But yes, including the Pink Book. And also just shout out to Sarah Miller, who has been so singularly dedicated to the Roeper Institute, who so thoughtfully and with an ethical investment speaks about gifted education and making sure that students everywhere are recognized for their gifts and have access to a quality education that supports their particular needs as gifted learners. So with that, I want to give you a roadmap of where we're going. Just one fun fact. The last time I was wired up like this was at my old school. I did an extended sit-down interview with Alyssa Milano. That's the thing that happened. But even as exciting as that was, this tonight is even more special to me just because of the investment that I have grown to feel and the affection that I've grown to feel for this school community. I will say that, before I get into our agenda, I've worked at a few different schools. My own children have gone to a few different schools. I have never known a community to be more dedicated to a school than the community here at Roeper. So I'm thrilled to be here. Okay, so here's where we're going tonight. It looks like a long list. I'm going to try to move through it swiftly. I'm respectful of your time. I wanted to ground us in our mission and values, give credit to our community, talk about some of the initiatives this year, as well as some of our celebrations and achievements. I want to paint a picture of the ecosystem of independent schools in the economy today, to set the stage for specifically addressing some of Roeper's specific challenges. I'm then going to talk about what financial sustainability means and our path going forward. I will introduce you to a learning and wellness initiative that has been the product of many conversations over this year, and is still a work in progress, but I think there's enough there to be able to tell you about it tonight. And then talking about Roeper as a leader in gifted education. After that, we will take questions. So here we go. Okay, so we have a really special mission here. It's not just that we educate gifted learners, but it's also that we want them to become active and compassionate citizens of the world. Just let that sink in for a second, because I think there are two parts to it. All right, so there is the criteria by which we admit students, but there's also the education component. We have an imperative that was passed on to us from George and Anna Marie Roeper that says we're not here just to accumulate knowledge for knowledge's sake. We are tasked with the ethical imperative to determine what to do with that knowledge, how to make the world a better place. So I want to start tonight just by saying that we are committed to maintaining this mission, and that our mission defines our practices today and going forward. I also think it's really important to say affirmatively that we will continue to be a leader and to support and advocate for diversity, equity, inclusion, and justice. This is part of our founding values. Many schools, for a variety of reasons, have shied away from continuing this work in recent years. We will not. And we know that all of our members benefit from having a diverse student body, diverse faculty and staff, and that we are wiser for the experience of hearing other voices that are different from ours in our educational environment. We are a living and breathing organism. Everything that we do each day is a product of how we act, how we think, how we treat each other. So the community that we enjoy is the product of every single one of us in it. I also want to emphasize that while I'm deeply grateful to the comments that Kevin made, this job is not, it's not actually a one-person job. This is the work of a team. And I want to introduce you to that team for a second, okay? This team is not just me and the leadership team, but I want to give special credit to, our faculty and staff who deliver on our value proposition every single day. They are the front lines of our students' experiences, and they are the front lines of people that our parents interact with most often. I want to thank the Roeper parent community. Hi, Beth Feynman. For all that they do all the time. It's just like an army of dedicated parents who always show up when you need them with really creative ideas, and I'm deeply appreciative and honestly consistently in awe whenever you turn up. It's just really wonderful. Our parent affinity groups are active and dedicated, and they also talk to each other. I really respect the fact that, you know, they're not just concerned with, you know, their own affinity groups, but there's a network of parents out there who are caring leaders within within their groups and with each other. So I just nod to you for that. Our Alumni Leadership Council remains very active. I would thank and give credit to Shani for her tireless efforts to maintain events and communications with our alumni. Our Encore faculty, you know, we have events throughout the year. We welcome them in person. I'm going to have a Zoom with them coming up. And also, last but not least, the Board of Trustees. I feel supported, and being supported as a head of school helps me to do my best work. And so I'm really, really grateful both to Kevin and the rest of the trustees who are here tonight, and who, you know, support the work of the school and really do the job of looking into the future to steer us forward in a manner that is mission aligned and responsible in a fiduciary manner. But here are those all-stars. This is my leadership team. I trust these people so much. I respect them so much. They make me smarter every day. And I just want to say a deep, deep thanks to every single one of them. We meet as a leadership team in person every other week. We meet one-on-one, or I do with each of them about once a week or once every other week. And the important thing about this team is that they represent separate departments or areas of function within the school, but they are not working in silos. This team is collaborative. The reasons for our meetings are to make sure that we know what each of us is doing all the time, and that we are able to share news and collaborate. So this team has been super productive, and again, we couldn't do what we do if we weren't as united as we are. Here's a quote from George Roeper that I really like. We are a community of learners seeking to redefine the concept of education as a concept of growth, always with the future in mind. I like this quote because I think of it as an invitation to innovate. We are the beneficiaries of a really profound philosophy of education that has grounded us, our pedagogy and our programs all the time. But I think the Roepers also understood that we would have to continue to change with the times. So this year we have a couple of that I wanted to share with you. As many of you might be aware, this year is every 7 years we have to do a self-study as part of our reaccreditation process with ISACS, which is the Independent Schools Association of the Central States. So the entire staff and faculty has been working on this. I mean, many hours have gone into writing a narrative about every single operational area within the school. And in doing so, it provides us an opportunity to identify our strengths, our areas of growth, and areas of opportunity. So I have to tell you how indebted I am to the staff and faculty here for the hours that they have put into this document that we will then send to ISACS. Next year, ISACS will send a team in the fall to visit us and to see that everything we wrote in this report is what we're doing in actuality. And it's basically a check to say, you know, like, are your operations aligned with your mission and how effective are they? So I don't think, as our staff and faculty were working on this, they shared the same thoughts, but I hope in retrospect they would agree with me, because I think that going through this self-study process is probably the best professional development there is, because it really does cause you to reflect on your practices and think about, you know, how you're doing and what you can do better. Another thing I want to acknowledge is that we completed the first phase of our Accessible by Design capital campaign improvements. So we have accessibility on a portion of this campus that looks amazing. It was a much needed facelift for the part of the campus that we improved. But we also still have work to do, and we're going to pick this up again so that we can complete the rest of Accessible by Design Phase 2, which will create accessible pathways throughout the entire campus, and also reorient the campus to have a central common area where that big green space is and that sort of elliptical, I don't know if that's the right word for that shape, that area. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who dedicated time and also financial resources to making this happen. It's a really important project for accessibility and also just for the improvement and the appearance of our campus, and we will get that done. Recently you received a mailing. We had a group of faculty and staff working on a policy on how to manage generative AI and AI tools as a school. We wanted to ground that policy in our values as an institution. And so we just published that. This is a policy that will change over time because we know that this technology continues to evolve. And so therefore our policies around usage will continue to evolve along with it. But our objective was to make sure that we protect the centrality of that human-to-human contact that is central to the learning experience here, and that we're honoring our students' development of curiosity and creativity and their own ideas before they turn to these tools. Another project we just completed. This past fall, we engaged a company called Co-Secure Enterprise Risk Solutions. We asked them to come to Roper to provide a 360 assessment of our safety and security preparedness. What that consisted of was providing them with all of the documents that pertain to our safety drills, our protocols in case of any kind of emergency, and they reviewed all of those documents. They also made a 3-day site visit in the beginning of December They interviewed many faculty and staff, and we just received their final report recently, and I will be able to share a summary of that with you as soon as we finish going through it. But that, that was something that was important for me to do as a new person at Roper, considering that, we are a single school spread over 2 campuses, and I wanted to make sure that we had our human resources allocated properly for whatever kind of risk or event that could ever happen. So I think that was a valuable experience for us. Okay, another thing that's a new initiative this year is I have had the pleasure of meeting with our student government officers once a month. We meet in the Birmingham campus and we talk about student issues, we talk about student life, we talk about school issues. And this is one of the initiatives that actually came out of my conversation over the summer with Leaf, because he felt that there wasn't enough accessibility to the head of school, and that the concerns of the students there wasn't a direct channel for them to be heard. So we have been meeting once a month, and it's just been an incredible experience. So I think historically, student participation and voice has been a cornerstone of a Roper experience. And so to institutionalize it in this way is a mark of progress, I think. And this is a practice that we will keep in place going forward. So this is not just a one-year thing, but this is a new thing that's just going to go on for all eternity. Okay. I did want to, before I get into the nitty-gritty of finances and stuff, just remind everybody that, in addition to looking at a budget or, financial documents, it's important to remember what we get out of it. And so there are a few things that I wanted to point to. The first is we just celebrated Martin Luther King Day with an all-school assembly. This year we wanted to make sure that it was very student-centered and community-centered, and it was really a warm and wonderful celebration. I want to thank Camelia for organizing that, and for anyone who presented or performed. Thank you. It was beautiful. I also just want to give a shout out to our robotics team, who are amazing. They're competing constantly, they're winning awards. We've got an upper school team, we've got a middle school team, and we also have collaboration with our stage 5 students as well. Our forensics group, they're always active in winning awards as well. In last May, the high school forensics team was once again named Michigan Interscholastic Forensic Association's Class CD state champions. And prior to their 2024 win, it had been 30 years since Roper had held this title. So they're just getting better and better. In addition, 3 Roper competitors were named state champions in their individual categories, which is an unprecedented accomplishment for most schools and was a first for Roper. So go forensics. I want to give a shout out to assistant coach Laura Moore, who was named the Michigan Speech Coaches Assistant Coach of the Year. And she had the privilege of earning this accomplishment alongside her daughter, who's a Roper alum, Katarina Moore, who herself was named Coach of the Year at the annual conference in Mackinac Island for her work at Mason County Central. So forensics runs in the family. The other photo there is another forensics and Roper tradition, the Stone Circle, where people gather from the entire Roper community around a lower school campfire to share stories, sing songs, recite poetry, and perform forensics pieces. And that's always organized by our very own Dan Jacobs. Several pictures from our annual trip to DC for the 11th grade. This is a Roper tradition that Emery and Linda Pence can't seem to let go of. They meet them down there every single year because it means so much to them. And I think that this trip becomes part of the set of memories that our graduates leave with and hold on to quite dearly. Model UN traveled to Kalamazoo and Toronto. The students represented 16 different countries and dealt with a variety of international issues related to climate, economy, global affairs, you name it. Athletics, we had Let's see, we've got 10 varsity sports teams, 9 middle school sports teams. Several of our fall athletes were awarded state, region, district, and conference awards. 27 of our 28 coaches are either Roeper faculty or Roeper alumni. So that's part of that connection again. There are so many people in this community that wear multiple hats, whether you're a teacher and a parent, or an alum and a coach, or a faculty member and a coach. There's a lot of cross-pollination among different constituent groups in our community. We had our annual spooky volleyball night, which was super fun. Hall of Fame was incredible. We honored alumni Paige Wilson, Jeff Gunnip, Ryan Sasson, Catherine Deneroff posthumously, and our coach, Todd Dunfield. Senior night last night was epic. Both games ended in very dramatic fashion. It was wonderful to see 19 varsity athletes honored with their families. It's also worth mentioning that this past fall, Ed was interviewed for his 30 years here at Roeper by Sideline Stories, and also for the fact that Roeper is 9th in the state of MHSS. We're 9th on MHSAA wins list. So that's to his credit. He's built an incredible program here, and I think athletics has just been thriving. So I also want to give a shout out to Ed for becoming a certified master athletic administrator, as well as a brand new grandpa. Okay, here's the good part. All right, so I wanted to say, just a little bit about the ecosystem that all independent schools are facing right now and trying to thrive and survive in. There are external headwinds that we share with other independent schools. There are certainly demographics that have not been in our favor. For example, declining birth rates. Affordability becomes harder. There are fewer and fewer families who can afford an independent school tuition. There's also just the hesitancy to commit to that because of economic uncertainty. There's competition among independent schools, and there's also competition from other public schools. So parents have choices, and we're very much aware that what we do at Roeper means that we need to distinguish ourselves and our value proposition to make sure that a Roeper education is unique and valuable. We also, like many other independent schools, face rising healthcare costs. That increase this year has been much higher than we usually budget for in previous years. So those are some of the headwinds that we share with other schools. To put this in another perspective, this graphic is an analogy of what higher ed pressures look like and how those are analogous to the pressures that independent schools face. So again, it's the demographics. It's decreasing net tuition revenue, sometimes endowment stresses, competition from other schools, and whether there's the market is saturated. So we have to be aware of that also. So there are a lot of external factors that we need to be aware of. It doesn't mean that we ignore them just because every other school has to deal with them. We have to take that into our calculus as well. So Roeper specific challenges. We know that since the pandemic, our enrollment took a dive, and it's taken the last few years for us to start building back up to previous pre-pandemic levels. Our lower school enrollment is strong. The weakness is specifically in the middle and upper school. We're aware of that, and it's part of our operations strategy internally. In development, our annual fund has actually grown significantly over the last several years, and that's to Shani's credit too. I think she's been leading that effort, and participation and receipts have gone up over time. And we still know that there's room for tremendous growth in the annual fund. So those opportunities still exist. We are also very focused on personal stewardship, which we haven't tended to with the care that we probably should have in the last several years. And so under Laura Edwards, we are working very hard to make sure our person-to-person communications and relationship development are forefront in our development efforts. Okay. I want to start with a definition of what I think financial sustainability is, because I don't think it's just about balancing a budget. I think it is about having access to the financial and other resources we need to fulfill our mission, both in the short term and in the long term. It's not just about breaking even in a given year, but about having the ongoing financial capacity to operate, adapt, and thrive into the future. It means covering expenses, sustaining and building revenue streams, and ensuring the institution can deliver on its mission over time. Okay, so a couple key points to this. Number one, access to resources. Financial sustainability means the school has the financial means it needs now and into the future to support its mission and operations. Second, short and long-term focus. We can't have one without the other. We can't sacrifice the now for tomorrow and vice versa. Both current financial health and future viability, emphasizing sustainability over time, not just an annual budget balance. And lastly, mission-aligned resources. These resources include financial, tuition, philanthropy, endowment, as well as other capacity that supports mission fulfillment and resilience. So this is a much broader view of financial sustainability, and I think it's a much wiser one. To me, it doesn't make sense to try, to say, oh no, we have a budget deficit, we need to solve that in 1 year. If you do that, the impacts are damaging. They hurt our programs, and I think that is a short-term fix for a problem that needs to be addressed with a much longer view. So in essence, we know what we have to do. We have to increase enrollment and retention. We want to build our development capacity. We need to plan for capital expenditures and for deferred maintenance of our facilities. And while doing all of this, we need to maintain Roeper's mission, our expertise, and our brand. So we will continue to align our operations tightly to our mission. The mission always comes first. It is the North Star. All of our decisions must align with it. We will not dilute our mission or our programs. Instead, we will lean into our strengths, because improving operations that way is putting us on the right path to financial sustainability going forward. So successful mission-aligned schools do a couple of things. They avoid across-the-board cuts. As I said before, that erodes your product, that erodes your quality. This is a crude analogy, but if you're going to solve an operating deficit in 1 year, it's tantamount to asking, which limb would you like to amputate, right? Because if you make cuts like that, you will absolutely sacrifice some of the programs and the quality of your program, your mission. And that's the fastest way to lose the families that you have and lose families that would be considering Roeper in the future. So we're going to stay mission aligned because that's where our value is. We are going to protect classroom excellence and student experience. So we know that we need to build our reserves and create predictable margins. And we need to ensure the school can adapt to enrollment shifts, market changes, and student needs over time. Okay, so what we've done this year is, and Kevin went into some of this, is to identify, our main our main areas of revenue generation. Obviously, tuition revenue, revenue from development, including annual fund and special gifts, and summer camp revenue. Those are the three main gas pedals for revenue. In some of these places, we have been improving our organization internally to make sure that these areas are optimally functional. In doing so, we always keep relationships forefront. Relationships in every aspect of Roeper culture within the classrooms and the greater community has always been a cornerstone for us, and that will never change. We want to make sure our staff is aligned with necessary functions. And also in both enrollment and development, we want to make sure that we are collecting data, using it to analyze and plan for the future, and use the technology that we have to the fullest extent to make sure that we are tracking our data both in enrollment and in our communications with development and fundraising. We also support interdepartmental and cross-campus collaboration. I work with Susanna and Cynthia very often, and we spend a lot of time making sure that there is a scope and sequence to curriculum and student life experience that flows through here at Bloomfield Hills, through the middle school and the upper school at Birmingham. That's really important to making sure that all of our families and our students and our teachers recognize we're not two separate schools. We are one school just across two campuses, and our programs are aligned, and there's communication. In admissions and enrollment, we are specifically focused on those relationships. We have started an initiative this year led by our new Director of Enrollment Management and Financial Aid, O'Neill Turner, to have a retention committee, which is a group of faculty and staff who talk to each other on a regular basis to make sure that they are responsive to any family concerns about re-enrollment. We are improving our outreach to current families through this program, and we're also offering much more clear and frequent communications, not just from enrollment, but also from the school in general. One of the efforts that started this year is O'Neill's postcard project. So if you have students who have received a postcard from a teacher, this is one way for us to be able to just reach out and say, you are part of this community, you are valued, and we want you to know that you are, always welcome to remain, you will always be part of this community. And again, back to tracking of data, you can't plan for the future unless you have historical data. So, we're trying to pay special attention to what questions we're asking, how we accumulate data, and how we use it to make decisions going forward. Okay, we have a new transportation partnership with Cranbrook that's starting next year. We are starting this with a pickup and drop-off location in Livonia. This is to help families who may live further to the west come to Roeper. So they would have a pickup, like they'd meet a bus at Livonia, come to school, and then take the bus back in the afternoon. This is a pilot program that is meant to help our current families who live in that direction, make transportation more, just less of a burden. But if this works out well, I can see us trying to expand this in other directions, either, north or toward Detroit or south, depending on where we see, the maximum benefit for that. We also are working to improve our marketing outside of Roeper. We've got a really strong value proposition, and it's really important that we do a good job to reintroduce ourselves to a wider community. Paul, we're going to have another round of applause for Paul, I think, in a second. So I think my data here is wrong, because you just corrected Kevin on this. So we have, I think, over 800 campers already registered for this summer, about 800? 770? Okay, still pretty good. And only about 50 of them, 50 children, are current Roeper students?
There were 54 registered at the end of the week we opened to Roeper families, so yes.
Okay.
So it's probably picked up 10, 15 since, but yeah.
The point of this is to say that this is a huge population of families who take advantage of our summer camp, but are not enrolled at Roeper. So there will be a new and concerted effort that will be a collaboration between Paula and O'Neill in enrollment and Carrie and marketing communications to make sure that our summer camp families hear more about Roeper, the school. So for some reason, that's just an area of leverage and opportunity that I think has been largely untapped. So we're gonna tap that and see what happens this summer. This year, we've worked really, really hard to increase the number of experiences shared across Bloomfield Hills and the Birmingham campuses. That's taken the form of sports teams, some stage 5 kids playing on middle school sports teams, robotics, and other activities. We are working to have more interaction across campuses in the form of assemblies and all school events. I think it's really important for our lower school families to be able to see forward into the future when they will graduate the lower school, move into 6th grade and the middle school, and see that as a continuous development for their child's education and not as a drastic shift in experience. So, that's definitely a critical transition year, and we want to make sure that our families feel like there's continuity there and want to stay. Okay. In development, this is really an effort to elevate stewardship, to deepen those relationships that are so important to us at Roeper, and to ensure that donors feel meaningfully connected to their impact, Roeper's mission, and Roeper's long-term vision. We want a deepened sense of community engagement with more to come. There are so many more events this year that have been organized through the development office with Laura and Shani. And, I've been part of a lot of those introductions to meeting alumni. We have a reception coming up with Encore faculty. We have a reception coming up with alumni parents. And a series that's starting for alumni called This and That, which will be about every other month and tackle a couple, different topics of discussion each time. There's also, and I want to give credit to Kim and her relationship and collaboration with Laura. Kim Adams House is the chair of the development committee on the board of trustees. And I know that she and Laura have been working collaboratively and closely all year to develop a partnership that has been really, really productive. Together, they are working to create a culture of philanthropy in which we do a much better job of really sincerely saying thank you to our donors. It makes a really big impact. And so I just want to thank you for all of the work that you're doing together and for Roeper. Okay. I promised pictures. So Kevin gave you a rundown of these numbers, but this is what it looks like. So these are our sources of income. Obviously, the vast majority comes from tuition and other programs. Summer camp is wrapped up in there. So you can just take a quick look at that for a second. Here's where it goes. The majority goes to our academic programs. In that dark blue area, that includes our salaries and benefits. That's the bulk of our cost structure. Financial aid and scholarships accounts for about 16%. The next biggest area is facility operation. It does, as Doug Winkworth said, it's not cheap to run this place. But with respect to our cost structure, I do want to say that I consider Roeper to be a specialized school. Our mission is to support gifted learners. That means that our student-to-teacher ratio is lower than most schools. It means that we offer more electives and extras, and that's expensive. But that's the reality of our mission, and we must attend to that with an eye on fidelity to it, but also longevity. So that's another one of the reasons why conquering a budget deficit is never going to be a one-year task. It's going to take a couple. For comparison's sake, I just wanted to show you where our tuition falls with respect to University Liggett. That's the purple line. Detroit Country Day, that's the green line. And Cranbrook, which is the pink line. So Roeper is the dotted turquoise line right there. So we are well within range of our peer schools nearby. Nevertheless, the cost to educate one Roeper student is higher than our highest rate of tuition. That's a delta of about $7,000, roughly speaking, on average. It is very common among most independent schools that the cost to educate one student is higher than the tuition. This is not Roper specific, this is industry norm. So I think it's important for us to understand that. And Roper, like many other independent schools, makes up this difference by drawing down from our endowment. Our drawdown rate is 4% of our gains on the principal each year. And also through the unrestricted donations that come in through the annual fund. So our annual fund is a really critical source of operating income that supports making up the difference between what we charge in tuition and what it actually costs to educate a Roper student. Okay. With respect to financial aid, this is a graphic that I think is really important to understand. 28% of our net tuition revenue comes from our families who receive some level of financial aid, okay? That's over $3 million that goes to support our teachers' salaries and our programs. Without our financial aid policy and the students that it brings to us, we would have lower enrollments, we would have fewer mission-aligned students here, and we would not be able to support the faculty levels that we have and the programs that we have. So this is a critical piece of our income. It shows up in the pie chart earlier as a cost, but it is actually a benefit to us to help us sustain the levels of our programs as they are today. We also know that this commitment to equitable access to a quality education was critically important to the Ropers and is a cornerstone of our value proposition and our mission values today. So we're not backing up from this, and we think that providing access to a Roper education for qualified students just makes us better. This coming spring, as I said before, we're going to submit our Isaac self-study. And once that's done, we're going to begin the generative process, which will take a couple of months to write our new strategic plan. We haven't had a strategic plan in a couple of years, so we're due for a new one. These plans are usually for 3 to 5 years. And we can use some of those strengths, opportunities, and growth areas that we learned from our experience writing the self-study to inform the strategic goals that we elect to focus on. So I'm really excited about that project, and I've got some ideas already. So let me share some with you. But it is just, here's one more George Roper quote, which I think is a good one. The concept of change is part of the basic vision of Roper. If the philosophy doesn't grow and change, it will become obsolete over time. This is, again, another invitation for Roper School to innovate. We can hold on to our foundations and our philosophy, and we can continue to innovate for the future. We are beginning to envision, following conversations and research that have been going on through the course of this year, a more holistic approach to student support for everyone here at Roper, okay? We understand that learning, intellect, and social and emotional wellness are inseparable. So that is to say that cognition and social emotional wellness are inextricably linked. We know this from neuroscience. We know this as educators from observations in our classrooms every single day. We might know this on a personal, individual, internal level. When, if you think about any time you've had sort of an aha moment, that's come with an emotional feeling at the same time. So our minds and our emotions are always linked together. Another way to say this is you have to Maslow before you can bloom. You must have a feeling of authentic belonging in a community and safety and trust before you're going to be willing to take academic and creative risks that are always going to be part of learning and growing. For our specific population of gifted learners, there are a set of characteristics that are not common to all, but are often very common, and they do include, in the context of a very advanced cognitive ability, usually asynchronous development, emerging executive functions, social and emotional sensitivity or intensity, individual learning profiles, which may include, a diagnosable or identifiable learning disability like dyslexia or ADHD, or depression, anxiety. There's any range of things that can come along with a gifted profile. The journey towards self-actualization and self-esteem. So we know our kids really well. We are also aware of where the neuroscience research is and the best practices in education, where all those fields align. That nexus informs us to consider learning and wellness together. So what we're looking at writing today is an all-school learning and wellness initiative. So this would be a holistic framework that would integrate academic challenge, executive functioning, and social emotional support, grounded in faculty expertise and research partnerships to meet the full learning and wellness needs of every gifted learner. I want to make a distinction about what this means and how it could be different from how we have been operating in recent years. This is not just about whether your kid goes to the resource room for extra help. This is an all-school wraparound approach toward being aware of, sensitive to, and responsive to the fact that, as we already know, all of our students are full human beings with an inner life and feelings. And for them to have an optimal educational experience, we do need to provide for their sense of authentic belonging across the community. It's been my observation since I've been here, and that's been confirmed in conversations with Sarah Miller, for example, and others, that Roeper has lost a little bit of its standing as a leader in gifted education. So I think we need to rectify that. What we need to do, and I think this Learning and Wellness Initiative is part of this movement, would be to offer renewed thought leadership that's founded not just on the Roeper's educational philosophy, but on how we use it to innovate for our students today and in the future. Things that we've done this year to help move us in that direction: we sent several teachers to the National Association of Gifted Students conference in Pennsylvania back in the fall, with the idea that we would then, they would have the opportunities or the encouragement and motivation to propose their own presentations and for conferences going forward. So we want to see our teachers going to conferences and also leading the conversations. In other organizations, we want to be at the table. So participating in discourse communities and offering Roeper voice and Roeper expertise is an important part of getting us back into the position of being leaders in gifted education. The Roeper Institute, which I think some parents don't really hear a whole lot about, is a really important of what Roeper has done in the past in terms of outreach and activism. We hosted, along with the Michigan Association of Gifted Students, a virtual conference this fall, which was really successful. In addition, the Institute publishes the Roeper Review, which is a peer-edited journal of gifted education scholarship. This is a really easy way for even some of our faculty to offer theoretical papers. They don't necessarily have to be quantitative empirical research papers, but this is a respected publication that gives us credibility as leaders in gifted ed. In addition, I want to acknowledge the work done by Matter of Equity through the Institute, and Susanna has been a really important part of that as well. But a couple of years ago, this is a partnership between the Roeper Institute, Roeper faculty, scholars at William and Mary, and also Wayne State University, with teachers in the Detroit public school system to help them understand how to identify gifted learners in their schools and to support their specific and individual learning needs. We had received a very generous federal grant to fund this work a few years ago. Back in the fall, we received the very sad news that the federal government had decided to claw that back. The Institute has been working tirelessly to replace this funding to continue this really impactful work. And I think we're close to seeing that happen so that the program can continue this summer. But this is another one of those ways where, Roeper, we should be talking about matter of equity all the time and doing things like this because it's so mission aligned. We are helping to identify other students outside of Roeper who are gifted and deserve the same kind of education and quality and attention that our students here receive. And also that we're the trainers in this regard, along with people from other universities. So there are so many avenues for us to regain this platform as leaders in gifted education. And I think, forging ahead with a learning and wellness program that acknowledges the complexity and the beauty of our students here and offers them the support to make them more, as successful and happy and self-fulfilled as they can be is part of that journey as well. And that is the end of my presentation. I'm happy to take questions, but if you've been to board meetings, you know that my last slide is always this slide. This is one of my favorite quotes since I've come to Roeper. So please take care of yourself, take care of each other, and let's take care of this place.
I guess to the funding deficit, and that was before you came in. Obviously, I'm seeing faces here of those of us, the parents who were really concerned about all of it last year, and now and you shedding light on like the $7,000 per student deficit. This is not out of the norm. This is like very relieving to myself, and I'm texting with my wife here, and like, we felt like it was doomsday, a year ago, and now we're like, oh, okay, we're going to make it work. But that being said, as far as the fundraising, can you shed any light on? Are there any like new initiatives with that, like doing the same old, or is there anything? Because that's something I know a lot of it parent-wise, we thought we could, approach that differently. So we're just curious if that has been discussed at all.
Daily, to be honest.
I'm sure.
But I mean, first I would just like to say that, I knew coming into Roeper, toward the end of the summer that last year had been hard and that people were left feeling discouraged and concerned about the school's financial sustainability. Kevin said to you tonight, I'm repeating again, we are in good shape. We have a very strong balance sheet. We don't have any debt. We have 2 campuses that we own free and clear. We have, $11 or $12 million in an endowment. We're in fine shape. When it comes to fundraising, we do have new initiatives. We also want to make sure that whatever campaigns that we have going on are not competing with one another. So, for example, in the beginning of the year, our focus was on funding Accessible by Design. And so the development group and the entire school and I were focused on making sure that project could be funded. And so we were able to complete that work. Following Accessible by Design, we turn our attention to the annual fund. And that is our focus right now. And over the course of the year, there are certain days, Giving Tuesday, for example, and some other events coming up. I don't know, there may be some people in this room who saw me do a ridiculous TikTok style dance for one of the campaigns. That was a moment. Yeah, so we're hoping that by educating our community that your tuition doesn't cover the entire cost of educating a Roeper student, that might make you feel a little more generous when you consider your annual fund gift. And I say that with tremendous respect and appreciation and sensitivity to the fact that our tuition is already a lot of money. It's a lot of money. But our cost structure is such that to deliver on our mission, that's the product we're providing. We will plan to kickstart again Accessible by Design, but knowing that our community is small, we don't want to eclipse the annual fund by starting a new campaign while we're focused on that. I hope that helps. Yes.
Yeah, it's a great question. Thanks, Mick. The annual fund is really critical. I'm always proud to say our faculty and staff, 100% of them, every single person that works for this school contributes to the annual fund. 100% of our board, we have 100% board of trustee participation donating to the annual fund. One of the ways Roeper can unlock funding sources that are currently untapped is by grant writing and seeking grants from institutions and foundations and investors that would be interested in supporting a school like Roeper. We have community participation in the annual fund that is below benchmark. So if we write a grant proposal asking for money, one of the first things they're going to say is, do 100% of your families contribute to the annual fund? And if the answer is no, we're less likely to get that grant money. And so it's not about how much you donate to the annual fund. It's about participation rate. And so the more families that contribute to the annual fund, not only does it help our bottom line because it incrementally adds money to our operations, but it also allows us to credibly go to grant sources and say, we're deserving of this grant, and our community puts their money where its mouth is. And we are who we say we are. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, a lot of corporations match contributions. And I think that that's been untapped maybe slightly in the past. You may work for a company that, whether you know it or not, will match your contribution to a place like Roeper. And if you go to that source and say, my family belongs to this really incredible place. It was founded in 1941. It has this incredible history. In 1956, it completely altered its mission to focus on educating gifted schools. So we're 85 years into being a mission-driven school connected to deep social justice roots. And we're now 1956 to 2026, 70 years into being a gifted education mission-aligned school. If I donate $100 to this school, will my company's charitable fund match my 100? If I donate 1,000, will they match my 1,000? And it's just a multiplier of money that we can tap into. So contribute to the annual fund if you haven't. Participation rate is more important than participation amount. And find out if your company matches charitable donations, because we're a 501c3 and we count for that too. So, thanks.
I think that letting everybody know in a dedicated email about that participation percentage is massive. Yeah, that's something. Any of us.
Great question. Yes.
Yeah. I think it's worth noting that this Friday our impact report is coming out for fiscal year 25. So there's an explanation of sources of fundraising, where it's going. But yeah, I agree with you that there's more education we could do in terms of participation rates and how that benefits us should we try to apply for grant money in the future.
It's just kind of a comment to that as well. And as an RPC person, that's something that I've found, if I let my grade know, if you give $25, it counts.
Yeah.
That I get every year when I say that, I get, oh my God, really? I can just do, and so people do. So I think as parents, like, we do have a responsibility as well because some people get information from RPC. Some people read the Roeper record. You get people complaining that they never hear anything. You get other people complaining that they get too much. So anybody who's here obviously cares enough to spend the night, but coming here as parents, we can just tell people around us, and that can be a way that we can contribute with our energy as well. And I just wanted to say also, just as a parent who's on my way to my last one graduating, seeing what Shani's doing with alums, but also with alumni parents, with things feeling differently, I think that there's a connection that's going to stay longer for me as a departing parent that I maybe wouldn't have felt at a certain time and did before that, and then now again. And I think that can really make a big difference as well.
Hello. So last year, end of the year, as you mentioned, there was a lot of discussion about funding deficits, and parents rallied. We talked about increased donations, changes. From what was done, has it been analyzed to see how effective it was and how we can use that going forward? Right? Is the future deficit compared to healthcare, right? Are we going in the right direction? Was that impactful? How can we use that for planning next year?
I just want to clarify, are you speaking about the fundraising that was offered to support teacher salaries at the end of the year?
Yes, I think it was, and I apologize, I don't remember all the details, but it was a deficit at the end of the year. There was a discussion of class sizes. There was discussion of parents rallying to provide more funding. Just a general topic.
Yeah, so there are a couple of issues that kind of combined to create a crisis at the end of last year. It was the announcement that there would be a significant reduction in full-time faculty in the lower school, a conversation related to that in terms of student-to-teacher ratios, and that the reason that we needed to do this was because we had an operating deficit. My understanding, and I wasn't there, is that some parents came together and offered to donate money to keep those teachers, that there would be a gift of cash to support those salaries. The money that was pledged was never collected because the reality was that might help in 1 year, but it would not sustain those staffing levels for a longer period of time. So it could have been a Band-Aid in a situation that needed more of a structural solution. So that's what happened there. In terms of where we are today, we are accounting for the increase in health insurance premiums. Absolutely. We have done the nips and tucks of the border in terms of like where our costs are. That's helped a little. But for the most part, the answer is not just about cutting the costs. What I'm trying to say to you is that there are management improvements. There are, doubling down on our mission and our values, making sure that our value proposition is clear to all of our families internally and clear to prospective families externally is going to get us a long way. There are a lot of things that we just do as a matter of being a school across different departments and areas that we can be doing better, and we are doing better. And so when I give credit to my leadership team and I thank the board for their support, that's the context within which we can make those improvements. And I think that going forward, we will see revenues increase because of the improvements we're making on a management and an efficiency level. And we don't need to do it by sacrificing quality.
One further one, from my understanding, was it 4% of the gains on the endowment or 4% of the endowment?
The principal remains untouched. So it's the money that we make through investments, which is allocated in a risk-averse way. Whatever we gain from that, we draw down 4%, and that's contributed to our operating income.
I need my steps.
Oh, come on. I feel like I'm just getting going. Let's go. Yeah. Take it and run. All right. Well, listen, if that's really the last question, I just want to say, I'm so grateful to be here. I came here thinking I'd be here for 1 year, and that felt fine. But since the fall, when I had conversations with Kevin and the executive committee and the board about staying on longer, it genuinely changed my horizon for how I think about this school. You know, I think, you know, I approach this job in a couple of ways. One is through consideration of organizational risk, whether that's external or internal. I think you have to be aware of risk, you know, short-term and long-term, you know, all the time. The other thing is I believe in this place. Like I've never felt such affection so quickly for a school. And I understand now, after being here for several months, why so many people stay connected to Roper for the long term, why alums want to send their kids here, why alums come back to teach here, why our former faculty want to stay connected, who still want to go on trips to DC with our kids. You know, I hear it in speaking with alums from across the last several decades. You know, Laura and I have conversations frequently with people, you know, who graduated in the 70s, 80s, 90s, 60s. Yeah, they're all really still interested in hearing what's going on at Roper. Like, just the level of connection is really powerful. This is a very special place, and I feel incredibly humbled, honored, and privileged to be a part of it.
Hello, everyone. I'm Kim Adams House. I am a member of the Board of Trustees, and I just want to thank all of you, as well as the entire board. Feels the same way that you're here tonight. One thing that Ann did say that we're working on from a development standpoint is gratitude and thank you to those who are a part of the community and those that give. And I just want to give one example of a person that I spoke with who was a graduate of some years ago, and she was ill. She was in ill health, battling cancer. And she gave a donation to this place as one of her last moves before she's called to a higher place. And what this community did, because it hit hard for me, is that we then extended an additional thank you, personal thank you for her well-being and health. This is the kind of community that we are a part of, and this is the kind of community that we want to sustain. So I just wanted to maybe end with such a poignant representation of how important this place really is. And thank you all for being here. Where's our mic guy?
Thank you again for being here tonight. Have a good evening.